Okay, we're going to go on to tutorial number 2, which is going to show you how to simply do a drilling operation. So we're going to go back over to Lathe Cam by selecting the lathe, and I'm going to reload our tutorial program, which is tagged on my list right here of the last program that I was working on. And here's our first operation that we did with our CNMG tool. Now I want to drill a hole. If I was to look at my print over here, I have a 2-inch hole that's through here, so I need to drill this hole through the part so that I can come in with a roughing tool and rough out this ID. So since it's a 2-inch hole, I don't know how big you want. Of course, I like using the largest drill that I have on my shelf to drill out that material as opposed to boring that piece of material. So I'm going to go let's say a 1 3/4 drill because I have one of those on my shelf. So I'm going to come back over here to Lathe Cam, and I'm going to go to Tool Change again. And this time I'm going to select Drill. And I don't want a center drill. I'm going to come down here to use, because I like using the inserted style drills, and it'll just have a shape of that. And I'll select OK. And then I'm going to walk myself through the questions over here, and of course reading the questions down here at the bottom, answering the questions. First it's going to ask me what tool number would you like. Okay, I like drilling on station number 5. So I'm going to select tool number 5. The offset number I want to use is number 5. The tip is a type 0. Again, give it my starting X position of X10 and 8. There's no tool radius for a drill. Maximum RPM, again, I'm going to set it to 1,000. Then you have a spindle speed. Let me talk about that for just 1 second. You have 2 different ways of defining the spindle speed. If you want to run, of course, it's always going to run the drill in a G97 mode, but you may want it, if you know the exact RPM that this drill runs perfect at 500 RPM or 1,000 RPM or whatever that is, then just enter it as a negative number, 550 RPM. If I want to enter, maybe I want to run 700 RPM, I run negative 700. If I want the computer software to calculate the RPM for me, then just enter a surface footage. So if I want to run it at 500 surface feet, just type in 500, and it's going to calculate based on a 1 3/4 diameter drill, 500 surface feet. It'll calculate the correct RPM for you. So it's up to you on how I've got a lot of experience, so I know exactly the RPM. I don't want to output 727 RPM or something like that. I know it works perfect at 700 or 750. So I'll just type a minus 700 or whatever number you want to drill it at. Anyway, for spindle direction, again, this will be forward and a work shift number. And then what's the size of, if you read out here, it says enter IC if profiling, width if grooving or threading, and then the diameter if drilling. So this is a drill, so we're going to be entering the diameter of 1.75. And then I'm going to change my comment right here also to reflect 1.75 diameter drill. So this comment will come out in my program showing me which drill size I had chosen. Now that I have my drill up here, I want to rapid my drill down into here so that I can drill a hole. So I'm going to select rapid. In this case, I want to rapid it to X0, which is center line, and Z 1 inch. And it will take and rapid tip my tool to here, and now I want to drill a hole. You don't have to rapid it up real close to the part. This distance in here will be modified by when you select the drill command. So if you just select drill, again it's going to ask you the drill diameter. And where in Z would you like to start drilling? This will rapid it up to how close you want to get it to the face of the part. I like starting at 100 thousandths off the face. How far you want to drill? Let's say I want to drill 4.2 inches deep. What peck distance? This is a drill. I don't want any pecking, so I'm going to enter 0. and a feed rate of maybe 3,000 speed rate. And I don't need to dwell when it retracts. I can get a retract point when it, after it drills the hole. Where would I like the tool to retract to? Well, I want it to retract to 1 inch back off the face of the part to give me plenty of clearance. And I want to use when it processes the G code, you can instruct it to just do a GOO, GO1, GOO, back out, and kind of command. Or if you wanted to use a can cycle G74, you can enter option number 2. There's a lot of can cycles that are really good that I like using, G70, G71, G72, G92 threading, stuff like that. But there are also a lot of can cycles that, don't work as well. So in drilling, it's really not that big a deal. It's 3 lines, the rapid, feed in, feed out, and wrap it out. So I don't use can cycles when I really don't need them. Block by block codes, what I would choose typically. The Z drill depth, is that to the end of the drill, or is that full hole depth? So this is if you enter a drill point angle, then it will actually calculate the extra depth it needs for the whole tool to go through. In this case, yes, it's going to be full hole depth, and there is no drill point angle, so it's going to be 0. And then that will drill you all the way through your part. And it will also return it back out to the part. From there, all you have to do is tell it to go back home. And I can tell it to go back home, back to X10, Z8, and turn on optional stop. So I can just tell it accept all the defaults without having to answer any of the questions, and it will go right back to it. So also, if I want to, when I do a redraw, or I slow it down to do a redraw, if I don't want to redraw all of that information, sometimes you just want to go up here. You can tell it to go to edit, and you can tell it replot, set it to the last tool only. So if I just set it to the last tool only and then I do a redraw, it will only draw the last tool. So I don't have to watch every tool every time. I can just go back and set it to just draw just my tool movement of my last tool. If I want to set it back, just go to edit, go back to replot, set it back to the top of the program. So when I do a redraw, it will now redraw all the tools. From there, if you wanted to just go through a simple little process of processing it, I would always go to save first. Then I would go to process my G code. I'm going to select, typically I'll select the default Fanuc OT style, but you can have them set up for your machine. And it will process that G code into this right here. This is what we got so far. We have a roughing tool doing a G72 facing, a G71 rough turning, and then we have our drill process, which was very simple. Go to File and Exit, right back where you were. And that's the end of tutorial number 2 to do a simple drill. It was, if I actually click on this little bottom arrow right here, there's a little checkbox, you can actually view your program. You can see what it took to drill a hole. Took a tool change, rapid it, tell it to drill, go back home. 4 commands is all it took. So, thank you for watching tutorial number 2, and stay tuned for tutorial number 3. We'll be roughing this bore.